great people, and welcome to Bright Books Club, our authors tour, where we're highlighting great people who are creating great stories all over the world. Of course, as you've seen on our social media, we actually have a great guest tonight. Her name is V.S. Griffin, and she is wooing consumers all over the world with her love stories and great adventures that she's creating with her books. But let me just tell you a little bit about her. She's an international best-selling author. She's devoted to giving readers fast-paced, high-stakes adventures with a love story sure to melt your hearts. She's a retired musician and she now focuses solely on her family and her craft. She's an analyst for a government agency and she's also an acclaimed writing editor and enjoys fishing. V.S. Griffin makes her home in the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. So we're actually going virtually to Houston, Texas tonight. And I am excited. So without further ado, I want to encourage you to like and share this broadcast because V.S. Griffin is here tonight. V.S., how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you
Great
for
book here.
having me.
Great
Thank
book
you.
here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So before we get into that, tell us a little bit about how you became an author. You're self-published or did you go with the publishing house?
I am self-published. I came about being an author. I had an idea for a story and I reached out to authors in the industry that were already established
Mm-hmm.
for a ghostwriting situation. Because I just at the time I felt like writing was not my ministry. And
Uh-huh.
so after all these denials, I finally found a yes from a dear friend who has passed away since. But she was a phenomenal writer
Mm-hmm.
and her name is Cecilia Austin. And once we got to planning and strategizing the storyline, she was like, "No, you need to do this yourself." And she gave me the push, she gave me all the support that I needed to go forward with writing. And I'm here today all because of her.
All because of her. Now, of course, you have multiple books, if I'm not mistaken. You actually have
Yes.
Phoenix Rising, and you actually have, well, Phoenix Rising is the book here that you
Correct.
have. And tell us about this because look at this cover. Like, how did you even come up with such a creative idea to create this? Like, tell us a little bit about this book and what our readers can suggest, what our readers can learn from this book.
So the cover, it's actually a rebrand. Um, I I was happy with the original cover, but I felt like it wasn't giving the impact that the story itself needed. Because it's a great story and a great story needs a great cover. And
Right.
so I was just sitting down with some free time due to COVID and I was just, playing around with Photoshop and just came up with some stuff and put it together. And now we have the new cover and the rebrand. And the
Right.
story itself is about a young lady. It's a coming of age tale. It's about a young lady named Victoria, and she loses her child at the beginning of her adult years, and it just follows her story from that point. The transitions, her dealing with the death, um, her not processing it properly, like a lot of
Mhm.
us do, and then just her dating life after that, and how
Wow.
everything has impact her.
Right. Now, of course, you mentioned Victoria in this book. Now, are most of your stories, are they experiences that you experiences in your life personally and you include them in the book, right?
Some things, yes. Like I have buried my child before. My very first son, I did bury my child. Um, and then just similar dating situations. We've all had the dating horror stories and the
Right.
relationship drama. So some things I did pull from my life, and then some things are just, the process of life that we all experience.
Right. Now tell us about your new book that's coming out, Gin on the Rocks. What is that about? Because that cover
Gin
is
on the
knockout.
Rocks. Thank you. Gin on the Rocks is a memoir of sorts. Um, it's my blueprint basically to my life. It's not a novel. It is nonfiction.
Mm,
And basically the premise of that book, my childhood nickname was Gin. And so that's why it's Gin on the Rocks. That's where the title comes from, because it's me unfiltered and it's just
mm,
about me and my life experiences, things that I've been through, the perception of how I handled it, the actuality of how I handle it, and how God was with me the entire time, whether I knew it or not.
right. Now, of course, you see a lot of great people out there who look at authors such as ourselves and think it happens overnight. What advice would you give
Mm-hmm.
to some, aspiring author out there who, maybe haven't even written the story or is too afraid to go and hit publish, or, you know what I mean? What advice would you provide them out there?
My advice would be first to write the story. Write it. It doesn't don't worry about format, don't worry about you know, how making everything picture perfect. Get the story out. Get it
Hmm.
down, get it out. Everything else can be done later. And
Yeah.
as far as the publishing, you have to put fear away. You cannot
Hmm.
be afraid. You have to put that away. That has to go above all else. If you can
Right.
be intimidated, you can be, anxious, you can be a lot of things, but you cannot be fearful if you're going to
Hmm.
be a writer,
Right.
because it's just everything is scrutinized, everything is judged in some shape, form, or fashion. But you can't allow that to dictate your moves.
Hmm. Right. Now, of course, you've written, you have Phoenix Rising, you have Gin on the Rocks coming
Hmm.
out. Now, what age group would you say your books are best fit for? Because you actually have some children's books coming out too, right? Or are they already
I
published?
the children's books are already published. I try to cover every age group that I have surpassed and that I am involved in.
Right.
So Phoenix Rising is for the coming of age, like your young 20s, early teens, well, late teens, not early teens, late teens, early 20s, young adults. And it's for older.
Right.
Obviously, we can go down memory lane with our past. The children's books are for preschool, adolescent children. Gin on the Rocks is going to be for all ages, since I touch on things that happened to me as a child, things that happened in my teenage years, my younger 20s, and now in my 30s going into the 40s.
Awesome. Now, I want to touch on one thing because you mentioned about writer or people out there who are maybe afraid to publish their books. You are actually offering assistance for people to publish their books through your agency, right?
Yes, I actually offer assistance. I have three levels. I have a completely hands off for me where I just give, step by step instructions for someone to
Hmm.
follow. I have a partial assistance, and then I have a where I do everything for the individual that wants to publish.
Wow.
And they can just
Well,
sit back and kick their feet up and take their much needed break.
right. Because as I do these, author spotlights, just interviewing people about, the stories and, some of the phenomenal experiences they are having out there. I do encounter people who are, trying to publish their book or have interest in
Hmm.
publishing books and things like that. So that is a good piece of information to know. Where can they go and find you at right now to find your services?
They can find me at V as in Victor, sgriffin.com. My name, vsgriffin.com. They can
Hmm.
find me on social media at author VS Griffin, on Twitter, on Instagram, and Facebook. All of them are author VS Griffin. And if they're patient, I have a mobile app coming out that is going
Okay.
to be released January 1, hopefully.
Nice. Awesome.
So they will be able to find me in the Google Play Store and the Apple iOS Store very soon.
Nice. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. You
Thank
know,
you.
you have so many great books out there right now. What's next for Jen? Like, what can we expect next? Because we know we have Jen on the Rocks coming out. What can we
Right.
expect next? Are you doing any traveling? You're a musician
Um,
too?
yes, I am a musician, but that is literally by high requested appointments only. I
Yeah.
have, I retired from the music industry in 2019. And so I've been trying to just focus solely on my writing. The
Hmm.
intention was to go on tour for 2022. However, Omicron is trying to interrupt the schedule.
Yeah.
So so it's kind of everything is in a holding pattern for right now. We're just, placing everything on hold just to see,
Hmm.
because as of now with the book launch, I'm hoping that doesn't have to be rescheduled or postponed or switched
Right.
to virtual.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Because
so
I actually published during the pandemic, so that's what I had to do, a virtual book launch, and it
right,
was completely, totally different from what I imagined me publishing my first book. And I'm
right,
imagining going to the store, doing book signings, and all that stuff. However,
right.
it didn't work out that way, but I am still optimistic that I'll get an opportunity to travel all over the world to some of these great places to meet you all
Absolutely.
who been on the show and talking about your books and things of that nature. I'm excited and I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I just we all have to be cautious and careful. But hopefully things will taper off to be able to go out and do a tour.
Yeah, oh, without a shadow of a doubt, I think those things are going to take place, but we just all have to, be patient and continue to,
Right.
take those necessary precautions to ensure we're all safe in the end because we got some great stories inside of us, and so we just definitely have to be in a position to birth those great stories for sure.
Absolutely.
VS
Absolutely.
Griffin, make sure you check her out on vsgriffin.com. Of course, she also has her book in our library now on brightbooks.org.
Yay!
So you can actually pick that up. Now, VS, when they purchase from Amazon, should they purchase from Amazon or should they come directly to your website to get those great old autograph copies?
I'm all about flexibility. Whatever is most convenient for the customer that wants to purchase, they can go to Amazon, they can go Barnes and Noble, they can go to every platform. I'm now actually in the Houston Public Library system. So if they have a library card, feel free to check it out. Um,
Nice.
but if you want an autograph copy, you will have to go to my website and order one directly. Those are only available on my personal site.
Yes, and that's www.vsgriffin.com. And of course, I'm
Correct.
encouraging you great people to follow her on social media. I follow her all the time. And of course, it's important that you follow the people that you're reading about, that you hear about on,
Absolutely.
on these shows and that, are on our timeline on Bright Books Club on Facebook and Instagram because they have some great impactful stories. And that's what this show is all
Absolutely.
about. So, VS, I appreciate you being with us tonight. One question before we get off. Who is your
Yes.
biggest motivation right now?
My biggest motivation are the kids, my kids. They are my biggest motivation. When mommy is not feeling it, and when there's a big writer's block, or even if they don't know that those things are going on and they just come in, Mommy, I love you. I'm so proud of you.
Nice. Melts your
Those
heart.
are the moments it does. Those are the moments that get me through.
VS, I'm so glad you mentioned it. I actually just became a mom almost 8 months ago now, as I was telling you, prior to the show.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And so I understand where you're coming from because this is just a quick story. I over the holidays I was actually taking out, a little poopy diaper as a matter of fact. And the stair gave way on the patio and I fell out the door. I was hurting,
Oh
VS, hurt my kneecap, my feet, and all that stuff. But the first face that I saw when I came back through the door was my son, who was in his walker. He just looked at me like, Mommy, are you okay?
no.
And it seemed like
Oh
everything went away. So I totally understand that
yes.
sentiment. about your
Yes.
kids, making you feel like you can accomplish anything or overcome anything for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you
But
so
thank
much
you
for being
so
with us
much for
tonight.
having me. Thank you for
Of
having me.
of course, we'll be talking as per usual. And as I mentioned, great people, if you're watching the show, you can pick up her book on our website at brightbooks.org, or you can visit vsgriffin.com to pick up an autographed copy of the book. Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to greater things in 2022 from VS Griffin.
Thank you.
All right. Peace, great people. Of course, I am encouraging you to continue to follow us on Bright Books Club. There's more phenomenal stories happening, just like the one we just shared with you with VS Griffin, who's out in Houston, Texas. And it's only going to get greater in 2022. And we're unfolding some great things, and we're going to be changing the dynamics of a few things on the show. And so I'm looking forward to 2022, and I hope you'll stay locked in with your girl right here at Bright Books Club, but we're sharing all information you should know about when it regards to literary arts. So I'll talk to you real soon. Stay blessed, great people. Peace.